Hi, you're back. So, welcome back again to When Authors Made Bestsellers and Created Chismis as History, okay? And this is your host, MelKat. And today we are leaving a palace rumors and entering a gothic hallway. Dim lights, old castle, cold wind, a mysterious count, a name everybody knows. Interesting, right? So today we are talking about Bram Stoker and Dracula, or as I like to call this particular episode, the vampire that hijacked Dracula's name. Hijacked talaga. So now, okay, before we begin with this one, when people hear the name Dracula, what do you usually imagine? What do you really imagine? Okay, the first thing that comes to mind automatically is a vampire, a cave, a castle, blood, bats, Transylvania. Maybe a dramatic room organ music in the background, right? Very gothic, very iconic, very Halloween economy. But here is the chismis. Before Dracula became the vampire everyone remembers, Dracula was also connected to a real-life person or a historical person, okay? Vlad Dracula or Vlad Dracula. Vlad the Impaler. A ruler from Wallachia whose reputation was already intense even before Bram Stoker entered the room with a notebook and gothic lighting. So now we have a problem here, because when fiction becomes so or too powerful, people start confusing the legend with the actual person. Imagine living, ruling, fighting, becoming part of the brutal medieval history, and then centuries later, people hear your name and think, ah yes, vampire. What the fudge? Oh my god. You actually spend a lifetime building your reputation and people just remember you as a vampire. Okay. I'm sorry, this is not just a reputation damage anymore. That is a reputation transformation with fangs. Okay, now, okay. Okay, I had my laugh. Now let us slow down a little bit, okay? Bram Stoker's Dracula is a novel, alright? It is not a biography of Vlad the Impaler. It is not a documentary as well. It is not a medieval court record wearing a cape. It is a gothic fiction. It is horror. It is atmosphere. It is fear, desire, or it is basically wrapped in fear, desire, invasion, illness, modernity, religion, science, sexuality, death, and the unknown, all wrapped inside one unforgettable monster. Okay, but the name Dracula carried the weight, right? And once stalkers attached the name to a vampire count, something happened. The fictional Dracula became louder than the historical Dracula. And that is where the chismis becomes history. Because public memory does not always keep categories clean. It does not say, wait, this one is a fictional vampire and this one is the historical ruler. Public memory loves shortcuts. So the shortcut became Dracula equals vampire. And suddenly, a name that already had political and historical weight got swollen by gothic legend. So now let us be careful, okay? This is not me saying Vlad the Impaler had a soft pastel reputation before the actual novel or novel. No, be. He didn't. His historical image was already severe. Very severe. Brutally, violence, war, punishment, political survival, and fear were already part of the story surrounding him. But there is a difference between a brutal historical ruler and an undead blood-drinking vampire count. That is a very big leap. Sobrang big. That is not a regular chismis jump. That is a batwing jump. Oh my God, kaloka. Ulitin ko. That is a batwing jump. Okay. And literature made the leap unforgettable. Okay, let me compose myself first. I'm sorry. Let me compose. Hi. Internalize. Okay, going back. Okay, because Stoker did what powerful fiction often does, alright? It took a name, built an atmosphere, created the monster, and gave fear a face. Then readers carried the face forward. Films carried it, theater carried it, costume carried it, Halloween carried it, pop culture carried it. And now Dracula is no longer just a character in the book. Dracula became a symbol. A symbol of seduction, a symbol of danger, a symbol of old world power, a symbol of corruption, a symbol of immortality, a symbol of fear crossing borders. Diba? Pak. Daming symbol. That is the power of fiction. It can bite the archives. Boom. Mind blown. Because sometimes fiction does not erase history by arguing with it. Sometimes fiction simply becomes more memorable. And once fiction becomes more memorable, history has to compete with the monster it accidentally helped inspired. Kaloka, diba? This is why Dracula belongs in this segment. Because Bram Stoker did not just write a scary story, okay? He created a character so powerful that the name Dracula became a public property of the imagination. People may not have read the novel. People may not know political history of Wallachia. People may not know the difference between Vlad Dracula and Count Dracula. Alright? But they know the vampire. They know the cape. They know the bite. They know the name. And that is where literature becomes a memory machine. Now, disclaimer, okay? This episode is not saying everything people say about Vlad is false, alright? And it is not saying Vlad Stoker personally destroyed history. No, I'm not saying that. Wag kayong epal. Okay? We are looking at how fiction, folklore, history, horror, public imagination get tangled together. Because sometimes the author does not need to write a history book to change how history is remembered. Sometimes the author writes a novel, then the culture does the rest. And the culture did a lot. Dracula becomes stage play. Films, posters, costumes, cartoons, parodies, romantic vampires, scary vampires, elegant vampires, vampire diaries, but sparkly vampire descendants somewhere in the family tree. Diba? do not make me open that coffin today. Different episode pa yun. Oh my gosh. But the point is this, alright? The fictional vampire multiplied, and every version made the name Dracula more vampire than history. So when people say Dracula now, they are not usually thinking medieval ruler. They are thinking creature of the night. And that is a literary takeaway or takeover. And this is the deeper question. What happens when a fictional character becomes so famous that it eats the name it came from? Diba? I'll repeat that again, okay? What happens with the fictional character, or when a fictional character becomes so famous that it eats the name it came from? Because that can happen. A story becomes bigger than the source. A symbol becomes bigger than the person. A monster becomes bigger than the records. And suddenly, history is standing in the corner like, excuse me? I was here first. But the vampire is already on the poster. Very dramatic, very unfair, very effective. And this is why we have to read carefully, because stories are powerful. They do not only entertain, they attach, they rename, they reshape, they hunt. Sometimes they preserve memory. Sometimes they decorate memory. Sometimes they basically distort memory. And sometimes they walk into history wearing a cape and refuse to leave. So the question is not only, was Dracula based on Vlad the Impaler? The better question is, how did a fictional vampire become more famous than the historical name behind him? Because maybe that is the real horror. Not just the blood, not just the castle, not just the night. Maybe the real horror is the public memory can be bitten. One bite from the powerful story and the name changed forever. Pack. So, final thought. People ask, was Dracula real? But the deeper question here is, what happens when fiction becomes the version people remember? Right? The Chismis was Dracula was a vampire. But the deeper history might be a gothic novel attached itself to an old name so strongly that the legend began to outrun the archive. And that, everyone, is how Bram Stoker's vampire hijacked Dracula's name and turned history into a shadows with fangs. So this is episode 7 of When Authors Made Bestsellers and Created History, or created Chismis as history. So I am MelKat. Read the novel, read the history, read what pop culture ended, and before we confuse, or what actually pop culture added. And basically, before we confuse the monster with the man, let us ask which version of the story bit public memory first. I'll see you on the next episode. Good night. good, you're still here. Did you like today's author chismis? I bet you did. Kasi you won't stay here up until the end if you didn't, right? So maybe you can actually treat me to some coffee or dessert while I cover the next round of our author gossip. How's that sound? The coffee and dessert jar is actually linked down below. So, advance thank you. Goodbye.